This episode is brought by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you!
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Red Raptor Writes. I'm stepping away from the typical paleontology stuff today to discuss my strange experience with a recent release from a few months ago, Stellar Blade, developed by Shift Up and released on PS5. Awesome, another title that makes my $600 purchase feel worth it and not like I just wasted money on a fancier PS4. It took months because my end playtime ended up being over 40 hours, and that's not even with 100% completion, though I did try to complete most side missions. After all this time, $70, and after risking my marriage with my wife watching me play as this well-endowed protagonist, I have to ask, was it all worth it? Is Stellar Blade all that stellar? The answer is complicated, so let's dig this up. The basic premise of Stellar Blade is that you play as Eve, a futuristic android super soldier referred to as Angels. Eve, the last surviving angel after a disastrous landing from space, was sent back to Earth by a revered godlike AI called Mother Sphere to reclaim the planet from hordes of monsters called Natibas while also helping the only human settlement left, Zion. Our heroine is guided by her friends Adam and Lily. You may already notice a bunch of biblical or pseudo-biblical references. Yeah, they kinda make sense once you've beaten the game, but I'ma keep this review spoiler free, so no literary analysis there. When it comes to video games, my favorite titles are the ones that tell fascinating stories for me to get sucked into. I know some others may enjoy cooperation or competing with friends, puzzles and challenges, or straightforward gameplay fun, all totally valid. For my beloved single-player games, it's the story for me. Depending on who you are, I have some good news and bad news. Good news, the gameplay is mostly awesome. Bad news, the story and characters are not. I like to start off with the positives first, so gameplay it is. Throughout most of my time playing, I had tons of fun. Much of it isn't brand new, groundbreaking stuff. Us players get an action-adventure with some light platforming, where most of the gameplay is melee sword combat. And there's the typical battles where you strike enemies with some quick, light strikes, or slow, heavy ones. You dodge if you want to dodge, block if you want to block, time those well to see an endlessly satisfying perfect dodge or parry, and use special attacks once your meter builds. Over time, you get more and more types of specials to unleash on enemies, so by the end, you're just wiping the floor with low-level losers. The magic doesn't come from revolutionizing combat for an entire genre. Instead, it's a lot of what you've seen before, very well refined. One major cause for its success is how the game takes its time introducing new concepts so the player is never bombarded with too much at once. Again, new types of specials with new meters unlock over the course of the runtime. After several hours in, a gun gets introduced, which becomes very helpful without overstaying its welcome in a sword game. And this also means that the skill tree is user-friendly and manageable. I hate opening a giant web of skills with too many options at once, to the point where I feel like I can't make an informed decision. Nah, the tree is divided into multiple segments that unlock over time as new mechanics become available, so options are easy to understand. You only have to worry about learning one or two things at once, so by the late game, you'll be well versed in everything. Your Natiba enemies come in a wide variety of forms, each with their own attack patterns to learn. This will apply to the many boss encounters too, but Stellar Blade continuously strikes that perfect balance between being challenging without crossing over into rage-inducing. Never did I feel like I was just breezing through the game, even later with all my power-ups. Yet, there weren't any times when I wanted to throw my controller at the TV. There's a constant fair challenge. Another win for me is how it deals with open worlds. Now, little known secret about me, I am tired of open world games, man. With endlessly expanding maps, populated by lifeless NPCs, boring side quests, and meaningless collectibles. This Ubisoft model has invaded too many titles and is quite frankly a waste of time in my opinion. Well, some treasures are scattered around the world, such as new skins and hidden cans, but they each feel rewarding enough to uncover, so I don't pass over them. For the most part, Stellar Blade takes a different approach, thank God. It likes to mix linear levels with more open ones. You have a few areas that play linearly, and others you're free to explore, simply going in any direction you please. These wide areas are also much smaller than those you see nowadays, so you're not wasting time in blank, unpopulated filler. During your travels, you'll have access to many side quests, usually coming from the citizens of Zion or posts on their bulletin board. I guess this means I'm done discussing the positives, because even if I had a good time throughout my journey, not all the gameplay is a hit. These missions aren't terrible, though I wouldn't call them good either. What we're given is of the forgettable variety. Simple tasks to pad out the runtime and unlock new outfits to parade in. Genuinely, I can't recall any side missions that really interested me all that much. Eva's sent to some desolate location to fight Natibas, track down some item, or find someone's corpse. It's all just generic. Although the objectives out in the open worlds are easy enough to accomplish, there are some that make you backtrack through the linear locations, only for you to spend an absurd amount of time trekking through the same streets from earlier. Never in these moments was I experiencing any type of enjoyment. I will say though, at least the NPCs are given some life, just enough personality to make me willingly want to help them out. Like, I do care enough about the people that I want them to be happy. Anyone who I'll remember after a decade, like say 3 Dog? No, probably not. Apart from your mission log, a fishing minigame of all things gets introduced. It has potential. The minigame itself keeps me engaged with sweaty palms. Too bad it's introduced towards the late game, so I would have to backtrack again to find good fishing spots. And by this point, you can already feel the rising action of the plot, shooting us towards the game's climax. I'm not gonna hang around for 10 hours now to become a master fisherman. I know that's how you unlock Eve's bikini skin, but I ain't down that bad. The difficulty irks me too, because no matter how small the fish is, it still fights harder than an alpha Natiba, so you can spend a minute fighting with the little jerk, only to realize it was a total waste of time in the end. Even if I'm hooking some petty goldfish, it kicks like I'm Quint reeling in a 3-ton great white. So really, I'm the one getting baited. Yeah, no thanks man, keep your skimpy outfits. Next, with these optional activities, it was pretty annoying to find that there's no post-game, which in my opinion is essential to any open world title. I was bummed to find that once the main storyline ended, that was it. No going back. You're locked into the end battle, and the only save you can go back to is at the end battle. If you've beaten Stellar Blade, sure, I get how story-wise a post-game would be difficult to include. But then, at least take me back to roam around right before the big finale. Infamous 2 does this if I'm remembering correctly. There's a literal rewind that brings you back in time. Maybe this wouldn't be so much of a problem if your freedom wasn't yanked away from you way too early. Players still have between 5 to 7 hours left to go when your ability to engage with Zion for quests is taken away, and you get that video game warning of, there's no going back from this. Perhaps that moment could have come right before the finale, not several hours ago. Alright, so those are my thoughts on the gameplay, but how about the story, the plot, and its characters? Are they stellar?
Not today!
I get that the main focus for Shift Up was that gameplay, which is good, yet still flawed. But they really left these other elements out to dry. I gave a brief summary of the game's overarching story earlier, but as for the plot, I found myself dozing away at times. You see, the weird android people of Zion need power to live. Since energy is limited, most inhabitants are stuck in a cryosleep, so on top of defeating alpha Natibas, hypercells are needed as well to bring the people back to life to give them energy. So pretty much the entire game is going from place to place, battling monsters, and collecting big batteries for Zion. For 40 hours.
There's no reason for me to live! No reason at all!
Yeah, the enemies were cool with some phenomenal boss designs, but it still gets old real fast. Over time, more of the backstory gets unveiled as we learn more about the world, its characters, and their motivations, though since we're not doing anything interesting, I find myself checking out, not paying close attention. My attention issues only get exacerbated when some areas drag hard. Like I said before, I appreciate how the creators mix up open worlds with linear levels, yet some levels severely overstay their welcome. At times it feels obvious that the devs are stalling to up the game's runtime. The opening area, 807, later 809, the space elevator, and this one sewer area each go on for way too long. That opening area is particularly dreadful since it takes for Shrekking ever for the world to first open up. We're not quite at KOTOR 2 levels of soul-crushing beginnings, but dang, we're getting close. That ending too takes forever to actually happen. I sat there for ages waiting for the final boss to finally show up, only for it to keep being pushed further and further away. I can reach it, Dad, I can almost reach.
I can almost reach.
Eve's overarching story of restoring humanity has some interesting twists and turns, like what that really means, how to go about it, who to trust with that. Yet with such a boring plotline, I couldn't get myself invested in any of it. The characters we meet along the way don't help either. Well, starting with Eve herself, she's nice. Yeah, she's nice. Sure, there are some moments of anger and sadness, but for the most part, she's just nice. It's not even like Eve is some blank slate silent protagonist. No, she acts like she's fully her own character, though without much character. I wouldn't be surprised if early iterations wrote her more like Link or Sackboy. She's joined by her first companion, Adam, who is the human equivalent of Tofu. Seriously, this dude receives nothing as a personality. He's smart, even though there are plenty of other smart people. Once in a while, he hits us with an unfunny quip, like the most basic low-hanging joke available in the moment. Man, I wanted to give this character a chance. I went through his in-game text character bio for anything to latch onto, but nothing. Even Pinocchio would call him wooden.
You mean nothing to me. No one does.
Then there's Lily, who is at least a bit more lively. She comes across as young and spirited, yet still pretty meh. If anything, I guess I can call Adam a realist, more pragmatic, while Lily comes across as more idealist, being more faithful in her quest and quest giver Mother's Fear. I say that, but it only comes up 2 or 3 times out of 40 hours of playtime, so any actual characterization is few and far between. I'm left grasping at straws here, just hoping for something to cling to.
I didn't care. I didn't care.
Something else that grew super annoying during my run is just how, for lack of a better term, weebish certain people feel. Lily and some other minor characters speak and gesture like those extremely cringe creators on social media who love anime and have no real social skills, or maybe you saw a few of these in high school. You know, over-the-top motions, high-pitched voices, striking the stupidest poses you've ever seen, that sort of thing. Actually, Stellar Blade resembles online parody accounts of such people, yet is playing them totally straight-faced. It is infuriating at times. Okay, there is one more topic before I close this out, the censorship. If you haven't been following this project, you may not have heard that the gore, along with some revealing skins, have been toned down at the request or demand of Sony, though Shift Up maybe claims this was always going to be the case. In an age when everything has to feed into the culture war, Stellar Blade has become yet another battleground. Some are upset over the censorship, although there are still more revealing outfits to run around in. Others are mad at the objectification of women and the unrealistic proportions. You know, a typical day in the media at this point. Is it bad to show scantily clad women with enhanced features, or should we live and let live? Let people play the games they want to play? In this release, I'll be honest, it's kind of a mixed bag for me. Eve doesn't bother me. She has some tasteful outfits and some skimpy ones for those who want that option. Also, we're playing as an android super soldier, so being realistic isn't much of a priority for me. She looks like a superhero, not the second fattest chick in your local Walmart. A few other characters, though, are laughable at how unnecessarily naked they are.
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
Aside from her lady pecs, our protagonist is gifted with a pretty face. This is perfectly fine. You can be a strong female character while being feminine and having large lady parts. I can't fathom why there's been such a push in gaming to androgynize women, making them look like men. The question for me right now isn't, why do female characters need to be attractive? I'm asking, why do game devs need to uglify their women? Wasn't feminism about empowering females? Why do we need to turn them into men in order to be powerful? Some may point to culprits like Sweet Baby Inc. and corporate investors, but that's all besides the point of my video. When it comes to the excessive blood and guts, I really don't care, guys. I grew up with Dead Space. Quit mothering your audience. Excuse me if I'm being brief or flippant, not giving this discussion the attention it deserves. An entire cultural debate is outside the scope of this video, though it's inevitably going to come up when discussing this game. So now, to finish out the video, I must ask once again, was it worth buying and playing through Stellar Blade? Well, depends. If you're someone who needs a rich story, lovable characters, and a world you can get sucked into, this may not be the release for you. Skip it and play through BioShock for the 100th time, and then watch my 2-hour analysis that's coming out soon. However, if you just want to experience some fun and some riveting combat, then yeah, I'd say go for it. The main draw is the combat, and it's handled with such a high level of care, causing a super satisfying playthrough. Overall, there's a great time to be had here, even with many glaring issues. Even if I came across as very critical, I still very much enjoyed the game. I'm glad I played it. It's decent, but I would not recommend it at full price. If the wooden characters don't hold you back entirely, wait a year or two for Stellar Blade to go on sale for say $30, $40 at most. There, I just saved you some time and money. You're welcome. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to please leave a like, subscribe, and to check out my social media. See you next time.